What happens when an undefeated, seemingly invincible champion meets an underdog who refuses to back down? You get Jon Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson, a fight that transcended competition and became one of the greatest battles in MMA history. Some fights are just about the title. Others become legends. This was one of those fights. On one side, you had Jon Bones Jones, the youngest UFC champion ever, a technical genius, and an athlete so dominant that many believed he was unbeatable. A man with an 84-inch reach, unpredictable striking, and a wrestling pedigree that made his opponents crumble before him. On the other side, Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson, a towering Swedish powerhouse known for his crisp boxing, footwork, and relentless cardio. A fighter who walked into UFC 165 as a massive underdog, yet left the octagon with his name forever etched in history. This wasn't just a fight. This was a war of willpower, endurance, and heart. A clash that pushed Jon Jones to the absolute limit like never before. But how did we get here? And why is this fight still talked about as one of the most legendary battles in the sport? Jon Jones, the unstoppable champion. To understand why this fight was so shocking, you have to understand Jon Jones. He wasn't just a champion, he was a force of nature. Jones ran through the light heavyweight division with ease. Shogun Rua dominated. Rampage Jackson submitted. Lyoto Machida choked unconscious. Rashad Evans outclassed. His creative, unpredictable style made him a nightmare for every opponent. Jones was tall, long, and had an almost unfair reach advantage, but more than that, he was a mastermind in the cage. His elbows were razor sharp, his wrestling was elite, his fight IQ was off the charts. He fought with the confidence of a man who had never truly been tested. Up until UFC 165, no one had even come close to challenging him. Then came Alexander Gustafsson, and everything changed. Alexander Gustafsson, the Swedish underdog who refused to back down. Nobody expected Gustafsson to pose a real threat to Jon Jones. Sure, he was a solid striker. Sure, he had good footwork. But Jones had destroyed world-class fighters before. Why would this fight be any different? What people didn't realize was that Gustafsson had the perfect style to give Jones problems. At 6 feet 5 inches, he was the first opponent who could match Jones in height and reach. He had elite boxing, something Jones had never truly faced. And most importantly, he had no fear. From the opening bell, Gustafsson showed he wasn't there to survive. He was there to win. And for the first time in his career, Jon Jones was in serious trouble. For the fight, a 5-round war. Round 1, the shockwave. The fight began with Gustafsson immediately taking the center of the octagon. He used his footwork to stay just out of range of Jones's strikes while landing crisp jabs and combinations. Jones, known for his unorthodox striking, seemed hesitant, as if he couldn't believe what was happening. Gustafsson stuffed Jones' takedown attempts, something no one had done before. The crowd erupted as the underdog outstruck the champion, leaving Jones bloodied and bewildered by the end of the round. Round 2. The champion stumbles. Gustafsson continued to dominate in the second round. His boxing was precise, and his movement kept Jones guessing. Jones tried to establish his rhythm, but Gustafsson's speed and accuracy were too much. For the first time in his career, Jones looked human. The crowd was on its feet, sensing the possibility of a historic upset. The champion's invincibility was being questioned, and the MMA world was in shock. Round 3. The tide begins to turn. Jones started to find his footing in the third round. He began landing kicks and elbows, using his creativity to break through Gustafsson's defense. But Gustafsson refused to slow down. He absorbed the shots and fired back with his own combinations. Both men were battered, but neither was willing to give an inch. The fight was living up to the hype, and the intensity was palpable. Round 4. The spinning elbow heard around the world. The fourth round was the turning point. Jones, exhausted and desperate, unleashed a spinning elbow that caught Gustafsson clean on the temple. The challenger stumbled, and Jones pounced, looking for the finish. But Gustafsson, showing incredible heart, survived the onslaught and made it to the end of the round. The momentum had shifted, but the fight was far from over. The aftermath. A fight that changed everything. For Jon Jones, this fight was a wake-up call. He had never been tested like this before. Gustafsson forced him to dig deeper than ever. It proved that even the greatest fighters can bleed, can struggle, and can be pushed to their absolute limit. Jones later admitted that this fight was the toughest of his career, and it solidified his status as one of the greatest fighters of all time. For Gustafsson, it was a career-defining performance. Even in defeat, he had done what no one else could. He took Jon Jones to the edge and nearly beat him. Overnight, he went from being an underdog to one of the most respected fighters in the world. His stock rose dramatically, and he became a fan favorite for his heart and determination. For the fans, this was one of the greatest fights in UFC history. A fight that proved MMA isn't just about skill. It's about heart, grit, and the will to push forward when your body wants to quit. The rematch. A different outcome. Years later, in 2018, Jones and Gustafsson met again at UFC 232. But this time, it wasn't the same. Jones dominated, finishing Gustafsson in the third round. The rivalry ended decisively. Yet, no matter what happened in the rematch, the first fight remains legendary. It was the night Jon Jones became human, and then proved why he was a champion. Legacy of the fight. The legacy of Jones versus Gustafsson extends beyond the octagon. It's a story of perseverance, heart, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. It's a reminder that even the most dominant champions can be tested, and that underdogs can rise to the occasion in ways no one expects. This fight is often cited as a benchmark for what MMA can be at its best. A brutal, beautiful, and unpredictable sport where anything can happen. For Jon Jones, this fight was a defining moment in his career. It showed that he could overcome adversity and dig deep when it mattered most. For Gustafsson, it was a testament to his skill, heart, and determination. And for the fans, it was a gift, a fight that will be talked about for generations. In the end, Jon Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson wasn't just a fight. It was a war for the ages, and it will forever be remembered as one of the greatest battles in the history of mixed martial arts.